Crazy Croakers! Come on, Madison. It's time to splash in the sun and watch the crazy Croakers jump for fun. You think this toad is ugly? You ain't seen nothing yet. Just wait till he gets all slimy and wet. Amphibians are everywhere, frog, toad, or newt. In ponds, deserts, and treetops to boot. You'll find this little frog sunbathing on leaves, which is just great since he lives in the trees. Strawberry frogs don't like to cuddle or nestle. They'd rather roughhouse, tumble, and wrestle. This frog shouting will keep you awake. And did you know a toad up on tiptoe can frighten a snake? Or that fire-bellied toads can do amazing contortions. While some toads hide underground as a safety precaution. Salamanders have tails, unlike toads and frogs, and they love damp, musty places like moss-covered logs. Some salamanders have gills, though they're incredibly rare. But the Amphiuma has none, so he must come up for air. Wet or dry, amphibians feature the best of both worlds in one slip-slimery creature. Where else can you find an animal with such a wide grin, who's always smiling, no matter what mood he's in? Do you know how to tell the difference between a toad and a frog? One's lumpy and bumpy and a little bit ugly. The other has the same silly grin, but with longer legs and smoother skin. Can you tell who's who? Here's the frog. And there's the toad. A little warty, but certainly sporty in his waterproof suit. Don't worry, his warts aren't catching. That's just an old story. And what about the fairy tale, where a kiss turns the frog into a handsome prince? That's just a story, too. Yuck! Kiss a frog? Would you? Meet the family! What's that floating on top of this pond? Algae? Look closer. Eggs! Thousands of them! And inside each one, something is alive. They're frog eggs, safe in a slimy jelly coating. In the pond, they stay moist while they grow. Do you want to meet the frog babies? Ready? Wait a minute, those look like fish, not frogs. They're tadpoles. All frogs and toads start out this way. Tails help them wiggle through the water as they suck slime off the rocks and chew on underwater weeds. The more they eat, the bigger they get. But size isn't the only thing that changes. That tadpole has sprouted something extra. First come the back legs, then the front legs. Then the tail starts to disappear. Pretty soon, that tadpole is a full-fledged frog, hopping for action. Not all frogs live in ponds. The strawberry frog carries her two little tadpoles on her back, high up into the rainforest trees. She looks for just the right home. A roomy bromeliad with a built-in swimming pool. Her tadpoles can swim and play here, safe from predators. Jump in, kids! Nearby, a glass frog has laid her eggs on a leaf. The rainforest air will keep them moist until they hatch. Did you know some frogs make nests? The foam nesting frog whips up an instant hiding place for her eggs on a branch over a pond. When the tadpoles are ready, they wriggle their way out of the foam and high dive right into the pond. The midwife toad lets her husband do the work. He carries their new family around on his back legs for close to 2 months. When the eggs are ready to hatch, he hops into the local swimming hole and the tadpoles are on their own. Suriname toads are backpackers too. Dad makes sure none of the eggs fall off Mom's back. The next day, her skin is already growing over the eggs. They'll go wherever she goes until a few weeks later, when the tadpoles hatch and wiggle loose. Uh-oh, a bad case of indigestion? Nope. The Darwin frog keeps his baby safe inside him and gives birth by burping. On the move! A frog's long legs and big feet mean they're built for leaping, hopping, jumping, vaulting, springing, bounding, and bouncing. Did we mention diving too? Frogs and toads are super swimmers. Their webbed feet work just like scuba flippers. Look! Up in the air! It's a bird! It's a plane! It's Super Frog! The tree frog's webbed feet act like miniature parachutes. Look out below! Hey, what's the hurry, fellas? It's the annual amphibian open track meet, and these Atelopus toads are racing to the finish line down by the river. Hey, you two, it's not a piggyback race. There's the finish line. And where are our tandem riding toads? Bringing up the rear. Hold tight. Underwater, they're bound to meet up with this newt. He's shaped just right for his watery home. A long tail gives him a burst of extra speed. In the mud, feet are what a salamander needs to climb this slippery slope. Look sharp. Those serpentine salamanders are on the move, too. Can you believe this is an amphibian? The Sicilian looks more like a snake than a frog, and he's blind as a bat to boot. Instead of using his eyes, he has sensors on his nose to help him find his way. And without legs, he just slips and slides around his oozy home. This is no snake either. It's an amphiuma from Florida. And he's even got legs, those two little stumps under his chin. Naturally, he prefers swimming, but he still has to come up for a gulp of air. Learning the hard way. Norm was just a tree frog, the kind with big sticky feet. Show us your foot, Norm. Nothing unusual here. You might say Norm was pretty normal. But Norm was bored with being normal. He needed a change of scene. Ah, that leaf looks much nicer, thought Norm. Life wouldn't be normal over there. Whoops, something's not normal here at all, thought Norm. I'm sliding off this leaf. Norm grunted and groaned, croaked and cried, but he just couldn't stick with it. I wish I could get back to normal, Norm cried, and suddenly... he did, sort of. Never again, vowed Norm. The leaf's not greener on the other side. Normal's the life for me. Animal talk. I bet you can hear that chorus from miles away. A few frogs have hopped into town for a Croakers choir. It looks like they're blowing bubble gum, but those balloons are built-in microphones. Only the males croak, and it's a contest to see who can croak the loudest. When the sing-along's over, it's time for a favorite frog game. Can you guess what it is? Leapfrog, of course. This little strawberry frog croaks to tell his neighbor to keep off his property, but his neighbor isn't listening. They'll have to wrestle it out, croaking the whole way. Looks like he's got him pinned. Whoops! Well, frogs sure are slippery. The winner! Well, that's something to shout about. Some frogs can make themselves heard even without croaking a word. It's no use trying to shout over this waterfall. Better spell out what you mean in frog sign language. And nobody's better at it than the semaphore frog. How do you make yourself heard underwater? The newt knows a trick or two. With a flick of his tail, he sends ripples of water to his newt friends. Sort of like sound waves, without the sound. Tails can certainly be talkative. This salamander is twitching his tail to say, "Clear off." His bright colors mean he's poisonous. Amazing feats! See those bright colors? The fire-bellied toad is practically double-jointed, and he'll turn himself almost inside out to make sure you won't touch him. And do you know why? Those colors mean don't touch. Poison. Frogs and toads may look defenseless, but they've got a secret weapon. Some frogs are so poisonous that rainforest hunters use the poison to tip their arrows. That's why they're called poison arrow frogs. Look out! It's those terrible twins. Uh-oh. The toxic tomato frogs. Salamanders use the same trick. Those spots tell hungry predators to stay away if they know what's good for them. But there's always someone who doesn't get the message. A snoopy shrew. Just a little nibble. Yeah. Salamanders don't make good snacks. That'll leave a bad taste in his mouth. and our salamander can safely slink away. Toads don't taste very good either, but occasionally a silly snake may forget that. Nobody's going to get a taste of this toad. The toad goes high up on tiptoe, and the snake has second thoughts. He'd rather eat something a little smaller. Darwin's frog is a snake faker, too. He flips over onto his back, and presto, he's just a dead leaf floating downstream. Once he's snuck away from the snake, it's upsy-daisy, right side up again. Bath time! Rise and shine! Time to hit the showers and rinse away that rough skin. Haven't been using your loofah this winter, have you, Mr. Newt? That's refreshing after a long winter underground. And look under that old dead skin and dirt. A new suit for Mr. Newt. Better hurry. Bath time around Toad Town means a group plunge in a nearby puddle. There's not much room, and the tub can turn into a tangle of toads. Has this wrinkly Telmatobius frog been in the water too long? Actually, those wrinkles help him trap oxygen, so he can scuba without surfacing. Ever! Feathers from an underwater chicken? That's silly. Those floating fronds are the gills of a rare tiger salamander. Don't worry, she doesn't bite. Ooey gooey! Look at all that mud! Somebody's pulled the plug on the pool. So it's time for this salamander to shed her gills and set off on foot for fresher water. There's nothing like a rub down after a long day. If you had long legs like this wax frog, you could just do it yourself. He even has his own waxy lubrication. Story time! This city toad woke up from a long winter's nap to find someone digging up his front yard. Time to head for the country, away from all the noise. He'd find a new pond, one where he could hear himself croak. And he invited his friends to come along. It would be a long walk before he found peace and quiet, but the biggest test was yet to come. A busy road, certainly no place for a little toad. The pond was just on the other side. The toads could feel it, but every time they tried to cross, they had to hop back. It was hopeless. Then, along came some people with buckets who scooped up the city toad and his friends. Help! Help! The toads cried. We're being toad-napped! Shh! Said the city toad, for he could smell the fresh air and hear the sounds of the countryside. The people weren't toad-nappers. They were toad lovers, taking the toads to their new home. At last, the city toad knew he would be a country toad forever. Dinner time. Did you know that tadpoles have teeth? They need them because they spend all their time eating, tugging algae off twigs and chomping on other underwater yummies. Some tadpoles like meat on their menu. This fellow is having the shrimp special. Can you spot the well-hidden amphibian in this picture? There, a hungry hellbender creeping after a crunchable crayfish lunch. Better watch out, little crayfish. Oh no, the crayfish is cornered. But at least the hellbender won't go hungry. This toad thinks he's spotted an easy snack. Think again. After a squirt of nasty-tasting beetle juice, the toad is left licking his chops. A bright yellow banana slug slipping silently along. Aha! A slinky salamander just a-waiting for the dinner gong. Stupid slug! You're about to meander right on top of that surreptitious salamander. Slip away, slug! Scram! Slither! Slink! Oh well, it's not a slug anymore. It's just supper, I think. Why do toads close their eyes when they eat? All that winking and blinking serves a very important purpose. Toads can't swallow like we do, so they use the muscles in their eyes to push the food down. Down it goes in the blink of an eye. Beg your pardon? Nightlife. Nighttime's the right time if you live in the desert. Then it's cool enough for a spadefoot toad to venture out of his underground house for a toad festival with all his friends and neighbors. Wow! Can those toads carry a tune or what? They're not the only owl toads in the choir. Frogs are crazy nighttime croakers too. And they'd like for you to croak along. Keep it down out there! This scary screamer is a horned toad yelling at everyone to stay away. Hey, no problem. Who'd want to listen to that racket? Bedtime. Well, the party's over. It's time to dig in for the night. A Mexican burrowing frog has a pointy nose just made for earth moving. The desert-dwelling holy cross toad goes in feet first. barefoot toad can even burrow into stony soil to find shelter from the hot sun. Underground, the Australian bullfrog wraps himself up in a sleeping bag made of skin. He'll sleep for many months until the next rain. Hey, you guys out there better be awake. Let's see what you remember. Who's the scary screamer who can wake up any sweet dreamer? The horned toad. You remember who's starting that new rub-down sensation? It's the frog who's got his own lubrication, the wax frog. This twitching tail is asking for the answer to the question, who am I? It's the salamander. Which frog can fly through the air with the greatest of ease as he leaps and vaults from tree to tree? The tree frog. Which animal gives a worm a crafty wink before swallowing him whole, quick as a blink? It's the toad. When they're little, they're called tadpoles, and they eat algae off of logs. But what will they grow up to be? Toads and frogs. Madison, it's time to leave these croakers alone. So let's rip it all the way home. Watch for Madison and his magic zapper. He'll pop up again with a whole world full of animal friends for you. We'll be rolling, running, and swimming together real soon on your Growing Up Wild adventures.